Many of us get caught and stuck when trying to reach our health and body transformation goals because we spend too much time focused on nutrition and not enough time spent focusing on food. Now, of course, sometimes it's nice to know a little bit about nutrition. Oh, this is a protein, this is a carb, and this is a fat, and so on. Like sometimes we need that information, particularly when many of the experts, and myself included, at times will refer to, oh, well, you need this much protein and this many carbs, and so on, because there is relevance and sometimes a requirement for that. But in reality, the catch is for many of us is that information then doesn't get turned around into usable information in the respect of, well, okay, so what foods do I need to eat in order to hit those protein targets or those carb targets and so on? So what I'm going to share with you guys over the next couple of days, now don't worry, I'm not going to keep you here for literally a couple of days, but I'm going to make this a two-part video is what I mean. So what I'm going to share with you is the breakdown of my metabolic matrix system. Now, it's 3 things that we do less of and 3 things that we do more of in relation to our food to make sure that we're eating not only in a way that will make us healthier, but that will also allow us to hit our nutrition targets and our body transformation targets. So many of you here want to burn body fat or to have a much leaner, more athletic looking physique. This is the way we get started. Okay, so many of you don't have a framework to get started with, and you keep kind of trying different diets because this expert says this and this one says that. So what we've got here is a system based on core principles that will allow you to hit all of the relevant targets, but also allow you to burn body fat in a very short period of time, as long as you make sure you follow each of the things that we do less of and each of the things that we need to do more of. So today we're going to dig into the 3 components that we do less of. Now, once you've got all the information, it's up to you whether you want to start on, okay, well, the first thing I'll implement is the 3 things I'm going to do less of, or you know what, I prefer the idea of starting with the 3 things I need to do more of. That will be totally your choice, and it will depend on whether you're somebody that likes to remove things from your diet or whether you're somebody that prefers to add things in and therefore leave less space for the things that you shouldn't be eating. So the first step in the metabolic matrix system and the 3 things that we do less of is we want to reduce. Now, I've said reduce. You may even want to eliminate, which is even better if you can. But at minimum, we want to reduce our processed foods and our bad fats. Now, what am I talking about? Most of you probably know exactly what processed foods are, in the respect that it's your prepackaged stuff, it's your cakes, your biscuits, your sweets. Unfortunately, for many of us, it's the things that we love the most. Now, don't worry, you don't have to completely eliminate them, and you don't have to never have them. You know, if you like pizza, if you like cake, biscuit, this and that, you can have those things. It's just about getting control of them so they no longer have control of us, because that's what's going on for many of us. We have these goals we want to achieve, but our cravings and our desire for these other things that we know aren't so good for us is what has control of us and therefore stops us being able to consistently do the things we know we should be doing in order to reach our goals. So we want to remove as much of the processed foods as we can. And when I say bad fats, I'm referring predominantly to things like trans fats, so anything made with margarine and things like that. And I'm also referring to vegetable oils. Now, I know they're sold as the heart-healthy option, and I won't get into it for this video because it's outside the scope of what we're trying to teach here. But the problem, or the biggest problem with vegetable oils, is they are actually very delicate. They don't tolerate heat or light very well and become damaged very easily. Now, unfortunately, when we then consume them in that state, what it does is causes inflammation, tissue damage, and so on in the body, which contributes to both poor health, but also increases our likelihood of being ill or getting metabolic diseases such as high cholesterol or diabetes and so on. So we want to reduce those bad fats as much as we can. And of course, later on, we're going to bring in some healthy fats to replace them. So that's our first step. So step number 1 is reduce our processed foods and our bad fats. Now, if you can and you're disciplined, eliminate them completely. But at the same time, give yourself some leeway, because it's not about being perfect. It's just about being better. So step 2. Step 2 is to slow down and listen. Now, what does that mean? Now, many of us are often eating on the run, or we're rushing around and we feel like we never have time to kind of just sit down, chill, and enjoy our meal. So what we want to do first is slow down, and we want to slow down to the point where our meal ideally takes a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes to finish. Now, the reason for that is on average, it takes around 20 minutes for the body to signal satiety. So regardless of how quickly I eat or what it is I'm eating, on average, before my body kind of goes, oh, actually, yeah, there's been quite a bit of food come in here. I think I'm now full. It takes around 20 minutes for that process to take place. So we need to make sure that initially we slow down enough to allow our body to regulate and identify the fact that we're full before we've overfed. So that's the first part. Then the listen aspect is, well, what do you mean listen? So we want to listen to our body, as in get in tune with ourselves and learn how our body feels in relation to the food that we're eating. Because the thing that we want to identify is when we are 80% full, because we don't want to continue to overeat. And at the same time, we don't want to overly restrict calories by setting specific calorie targets. And I need to be on a deficit of 250 here and 500 here. And we don't worry about all of that. Instead, we just reduce the amount we're eating by firstly giving our body the opportunity to identify that we're full and nourished enough, but also listening to the point that we get to, listening for the point that we're at 80% full so that we can then choose to stop. Now, of course, over time, you can tweak and adapt it. You might find, oh, actually, I can get awesome results eating to 90% full. But initially, we want to begin with that 80% because that will give us the greatest opportunity for success with this. So we've gotten rid of the bad shit, and we're then going to slow down. That's the initial goal. So we slow down and we learn to listen. Now, the final piece in this is sometimes a controversial thing in the respect that everybody has a different opinion about what should or should not be done in relation to this third piece. And that is we want to reduce our consumption of starchy carbs. Now, don't hear me saying carbs are bad, because I'm not saying that. In fact, for many of us, they're actually essential if we want optimal energy and optimal body transformation. But the catch for many of us is we tend to favor starchy carbs over some of the other foods that we're going to be bringing in inside of the more of list. So if we're favoring them, and these tend to make up the foundation of most people's diet, which unfortunately is what often leads to the blood sugar disruption and the excessive inflammation in the body, and therefore the poor health and the excess weight gain. So often we need to reduce our starchy carb intake in order to get better control of blood sugar and to reduce some of that metabolic load that the body has to deal with so that it can then use some of those resources for actually burning fat. Plus, because the blood sugar is handled much better and so on, the body is being put into less of a state of store fat every time blood sugar is high, and then the body releases insulin and so on. So we're not looking to eliminate them. We just want to reduce them. Now, by starchy carbohydrates, I'm referring to things like breads, pastas, your fruits, your root vegetables, and so on. So those are all forms of starchy carbohydrate, and they're not bad. The industry has done a very good job of convincing everybody that starchy carbs are bad and we need to reduce them, eliminate them, and so on. Refined carbohydrates, yes, but general starchy carbohydrates, you don't have to. They're not bad for you. We just sometimes have to control the amount, particularly if our goal is aesthetic based. If I'm looking to burn body fat and build a fit, lean, healthy body, then I might have to reduce my overall consumption of carbs in order to get that aesthetic result so that I burn more body fat, as I say, because we're causing less disruption to our blood sugar and the metabolic processes that are taking place in the body. So that is the overview. That's the first half of the metabolic meal method. So in the less of list, what we first do is reduce or eliminate processed foods and bad fats. We get rid of as many of them as we can because we want the body to have the opportunity to heal so that we can then do the right things and reveal the body that we're trying to actually get for ourselves, the one that's fitter, leaner, stronger, healthier, and so on. The next thing that we do is we slow down and we listen. So we ideally take 20 minutes on average to finish our meal, and we listen to our body with the intention to stop when we are 80% full. Then the third piece in the less of list is we reduce our overall consumption of starchy carbohydrates. Now, how do we do that? What we would do initially is start off by only consuming 1 to 2 cupped handfuls of starchy carbs per main meal. So what does that mean? Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Those tend to be our main meals. So we would only have 1 to 2 cupped handfuls of starchy carbohydrates. As I mentioned earlier, that's things like our root vegetables, so potatoes, swede, turnip, and so on, carrots and things like that, or whole grains and breads and pastas and so on. All of that type of thing you would want to reduce. That's also fruits included in that. Fruits are also a starchy carbohydrate. So we want to reduce them, not because they're bad, but just because they're not always what our body needs when we're trying to reach an aesthetic goal. So any questions on this, drop them below. And if not, look out for my video tomorrow when we get into the second half of the metabolic matrix, where I'm going to show you guys the 3 things that we do more of and break down exactly what it is we want to bring into the diet in order to not only hopefully get results, but actually guarantee that we get results. Because it's one thing to eliminate this stuff, which will help you start moving towards the goal. It will help you start losing weight. You'll feel better. You'll have more energy because your body's not dealing with as much of this crap and processed junk. But it won't necessarily build the body that you're after. So we need to make sure that we're bringing in the right raw resources and nutrients through the things that we need to do more of in order to ensure that we actually build the physique that we want, along with obviously reducing the body fat through these methods here. So any questions, as I say, drop them below. And if not, I look forward to chatting with you guys tomorrow, where I show you the second part of the metabolic matrix. Take it easy, people, and I shall chat to you soon.